Hey, I'm Steve, and welcome to another cool episode of Another Cool Rock Podcast, a show where we have conversations about rock and roll with people who rock. And this episode's guest, Brian Durbin, does exactly that nearly every day, every week of the year. You know those songs that pick you up when you're feeling tired or down? I call those songs like that, an instant mood enhancer. And more often than not, that's a hard rock song with crunchy fat guitars, big drums, killer vocals, and most importantly, a big hook. Those songs that after 3 or 4 minutes, I'm in a better mood. I got a little bit of extra energy at the gym. Those songs that make me put the gas pedal down a bit more, both metaphorically and literally. And more often than not, under that hard rock banner is music by bands and artists that many might derisively call hair metal. And you probably can think of several bands that would fit that moniker that got big in the 1980s, or at least know what they look like with the big hair and all. Personally, it's just hard rock or melodic rock to me. And look, I get why that genre became a parody to hipsters and critics and the like. But here's the thing. The majority of those bands were great live, wrote some great songs, and featured great musicians, and many are still making excellent music today. That's the stuff I dig. I've heard the 80s hits enough at this point. And whether you call them hair bands or melodic hard rock or whatever, they've been having the last laugh for the last 20 years, with songs streaming in the tens of millions, selling out stadiums, arenas, and cruise ships every year. And that's not just to folks like me, who went to high school in the 1980s, buying the tickets and living off the nostalgia. Nope, it's now millennials and even Generation X that are into the music, which is where this episode's guest comes in. Brian Durbin hails from the Chicago area, where he's been making music since 2010 or so. First as the vocalist, lead guitarist, and primary songwriter for a band that should have broke big, Love Blast. And for about 10 years now with the 80s tribute band Hairbangers Ball, doing about 150 gigs a year. I told you hair metal is still big. And that popularity fuels his solo music, which is how I found him on Spotify. His influences are filled with my favorites: Aerosmith, Kiss, Def Leppard, Van Halen, and the like, and his music is filled with killer riffs along with a pop sensibility that leads to memorable melodies and choruses. 2 years ago, he put out his first album, Only Jams, a collection of 11 singles he released between 2021 and 2022. This year, he's been releasing new songs, the first one a couple months back called Wild Blood, and the newest, Roll Around With Me, which just hit the streaming services along with a great video up at YouTube right before we recorded this episode. Both you can definitely say are instant mood enhancers, and Roll Around With Me is already in my power rotation. I absolutely love the guitar riff, totally picks me up, and you can hear a bit of that song at the end of our interview. I know it's a cliche to say someone lives and breathes music, but Brian does. When he's not playing with Hairbangers Ball, he's writing and recording his own stuff, or working on solo gigs, or doing production work and songwriting sessions with other artists. This guy lives it. It's not a career, it's everything to him. Brian is one of those guys where after about 10 minutes, I realized we probably have very identical album and CD collections, and could have gone real deep in our favorite bands. In fact, we do have a fun sidebar towards the end talking about Kiss. And we could have easily talked about them alone for probably another hour. Okay, before we get to that, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the passing of Ozzy Osbourne, of which news broke just a couple days ago before recording this episode. I've long been a big fan of Ozzy's, more solo stuff than Black Sabbath, though I dig that as well. What more can you say about Ozzy that you don't already know, or that hundreds of blogs, news outlets, and podcasts have already said, and said far better than me? To say his impact and legacy on heavy metal was enormous is a fucking understatement. Think of what he did with Sabbath, Iron Man, War Pigs, NIB, Paranoid. Then think of his solo albums. Thanks to Ozzy, if you're into rock guitar, you know who Randy Rhoads is. And yes, the alcohol and drug abuse and the crazy antics in the 70s and 80s might be the first thing the uninformed might have thought about when they heard the news about Ozzy dying, but fuck that. He was obviously so much more than that. And so much more than the reality show The Osbournes, where truth be told, he nearly became a parody. But he also became, a lot of people saw the other side of Ozzy, a loving dad, a loving husband, a guy who loved life. And at the end of the day, his vulnerability and candor about addiction and illness made him deeply human. Ozzy released 13 solo albums in all, and he remained active even after he said he'd retire after the awesome No More Tears album in 1991, my favorite Ozzy album, and several Black Sabbath reunions too. Since news broke, I've been listening to a lot of Ozzy, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, of course, No More Tears, and I've gravitated to a couple of albums that maybe some people should revisit, like The Ultimate Sin with Jakey Lee on guitar, and No Rest for the Wicked, the album that unleashed Zakk Wylde on the world. What more can you say about Ozzy? Despite battling Parkinson's disease and enduring multiple surgeries, he remained creatively active until the end, performing at that massive tribute show in Birmingham in the UK, his hometown, just a few weeks ago. The first thing I thought of upon hearing about his death was that I was so glad he was able to be a part of that show. He lived that long. Died only a few weeks after. The tributes have poured in from across the music world with peers like Metallica, Elton John, and Billy Idol honoring his legacy. Ozzy's influence spans generations and genres. He didn't just shape heavy metal, he gave it a soul. As he once said, "Survival is my legacy." And survive he did, and then some, and will always continue to. All right, here's my conversation with Brian Durbin. All right, here with Brian Durbin. Brian, I am psyched to speak with you. I'm really into your music. I really dig what you do. I want to get into all that and how I found you via Spotify, via the Release Radar. Thank you very much to the algorithms. But first things first, where does this podcast currently find you, and how did you first get into making rock and roll music?
Yeah. So I'm at my home studio / speakeasy in Glen Ellen, Illinois right now. And I got into rock and roll from the movie Mrs. Doubtfire. There's a scene where Robin Williams is like playing the guitar on a broom and on the vacuum cleaner and stuff, and the background music is Dude Looks Like a Lady. And I thought it was hilarious, and I thought the song was just amazing. And like I refer to it as my crack pipe moment for music, because like as soon as I took a hit of that crack pipe, that was when I came online and I got interested in music, and I discovered Aerosmith, and then eventually Kiss, and then eventually Van Halen. And then as soon as I found Motley Crue, then I got this whole obsession for 80s hair metal music, and it's basically been the entire trajectory of my entire life from there.
I love it. Our record collections are probably very, very identical. And when I was reading your bio, I saw your influence artists and who you just mentioned. I was like, oh yeah, we are simpatico for sure. So you mentioned hair metal, which some people think it might come across as kind of derogatory. But however, in addition to the solo stuff, which we're going to get into in depth, you front a hair metal tribute band, I guess, called Hairbangers Ball there in Illinois, correct?
Correct, yeah. I've been in the band for about 9.5 years.
That's amazing. So that is a lot of work, I take it. I mean, you are in music full time. You've got the solo stuff, as mentioned, Hairbangers Ball. I know you also do some production and guitar teaching as well.
That's correct, yes.
So this is it, man. This is your day job and your night job.
That's correct. Yeah, 100%. Steve, you've really done your research, man. Thank you so much.
All right. So Hairbangers Ball is probably the one that keeps the paychecks going and keeps a lot of things happening. I would take it, correct?
Absolutely.
How many gigs a year do you do, and where with Hairbangers Ball, and where do you primarily play?
We do about 150 shows a year, mostly across the Midwest. So we're based out of Illinois, but we spend a lot of time in Indiana. We spend a lot of time in Wisconsin, and then we dip down to Kentucky sometimes. We've done a little bit of stuff in Ohio, Iowa. We've been playing Michigan a little bit more lately, but basically the thing that I always say is we'll go wherever somebody writes the right check. So we've done shows in Hollywood. We were the first band to play the Whiskey A Go Go.
Oh wow!
During the 2020 pandemic, we did a live stream. So that was a really interesting experience. Yeah, because we played like a full 2-hour show in front of no crowd. It was just cameras. There was a camera crew there called great production company called Veeps. And it was an amazing experience. But the bands also played Puerto Rico. The bands played Honduras, Las Vegas, all sorts of great stuff. Unfortunately, Puerto Rico, Honduras, and Las Vegas were before my time in the band. But we mostly stick around the Midwest. We'd like to venture out to other places, but it just, there's so much work locally with this type of music. And sometimes it's hard to justify the expense to
Sure.
get to some other areas and stuff.
So are there places where you have standing gigs where twice a year this guy has you come back because he knows you're going to bring in 600 people
I
and
mean,
they're going to
there
spend
are
a ton of money?
places that we play once a month. We play the Bluebird in Bloomington, Indiana, which is like right on the Indiana University campus, and we play there, at least 10 times a year, if not 12 times a year. And it's one of the greatest. It's one of my favorite places in the world because it's like. It's not just a bar, it's an actual like real live music venue. And I know this is going to sound weird from somebody who plays 150 shows a year, but actual live music venues are becoming more and more rare. Like
It's so sad.
Yeah. And most of the time it's a bar with live music, or we do a lot of festivals in the throughout the Midwest during the summer. And I love playing the festivals. I love playing outdoors, but my favorite thing, I feel at home in like a live music venue.
Gotcha. So, but obviously playing this often keeps your chops up and it gives a good, I would imagine, obviously it's a lot of fun playing killer tunes by so many of your favorite bands, right? And so I take it this has been a really great way to expose people to your solo music, right? So
Yeah.
if I'm at a Hairbanger show and I'm unfamiliar with you and I haven't been one of those folks that's seen you, in the same time, each month at the same place, how are you letting those fans know about your new music, about what you do solo wise? Because obviously if you like what Hairbangers plays, you're going to love the original stuff that Brian Durbin plays.
Yeah. So the way I do it, and this is kind of nerdy, but, through being in Hairbangers Ball, I've learned a lot. In addition to being the singer of the band, I'm also the marketing director of the band.
Oh, guy after my own heart.
So I've learned a lot about how Facebook ads work in the past, 9 years or so. So, that's basically how I get my music out to people is, I don't have like a record label or anything. I take the money that I made with Hairbangers, I press some merch, I make some CDs and stuff, and then I just run Facebook ads and I run traffic to my my web store, which you can find at briandurbin.com. I also read Gene Simmons's biographies. If Gene Simmons has multiple biographies or whatever. So yeah, like most people have one. Gene Simmons has like at least three.
I've got a shelf full of Kiss books downstairs, so I'm with you.
Yeah. So basically, I've learned a lot about marketing from being a Kiss fan, but also doing Facebook ads for Hairbangers Ball for the past 9 years has really kind of made my internet chops fluent.
That's awesome. So you're a musician, you write, you record, you're a singer, you're a lead guitar player. You have to be a marketing director and an entrepreneur. I mean, to say you're wearing a lot of hats is an understatement.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, and speaking of marketing, obviously this is an audio podcast only, but your listeners must know now that I'm wearing a Real American Beer hat because Hairbangers Ball was just recently sponsored by Hulk Hogan's beer company, Real American Beer. We haven't announced it on our page yet, but by the time this is out, people will know that we just got sponsored by Real American Beer. So everyone drink Real American Beer and listen to rock and roll.
That is so awesome. And that is, unfortunately, no one will see it, but that is a cool logo and a cool hat. So I am envious. That is very cool.
It's covering up how bad I smell now, which is nice that this is a podcast. And then I just got back from the gym. I don't think I've showered since our show Saturday. So I'm rank right now.
All right. All things considered, yeah, it's good. It's audio only. So, all right. So let's talk about your solo stuff because I have added a bunch of songs to my playlist, and they've been great additions to my workout playlist in particular. And we're going to jump around a little bit here. This year you put out Wild Blood, and as far as a new single, and by the time everybody hears this, your brand new awesome video for a killer track, Roll Around With Me, will have just hit. And we're going to send everybody, as many people there to go see it because it is so awesome. But before that, you had a album out in 2023 called Only Jams, right?
Yes.
And those were all a bunch of singles that you were previously working on. There's some great stuff on there, man. I love Don't Let Go and Shake the City in particular. Those
Thank you.
added to my playlist right away. So I take it you're consistently writing and putting out new music and recording new music, correct?
Yeah, pretty much my day goes like I get up, first 4 hours of the day are all Hairbangers Ball marketing stuff. I do some voice exercises to keep myself in shape, maybe, a half hour of guitar playing and stuff, and then go work out, eat dinner, and then I get down in my basement and I just start working on songs. And before you know it, the day's over.
That's awesome.
I do it again. And then before you know it, the week's over and it's time to go play some shows. So I'm 24/7 rock and roll at all times.
Man, I'm very impressed. That's a commitment. So many people want to do that and they either don't have the drive or they do it for a little bit and they give up, it's too hard, or they simply can't because for whatever, any number of reasons, right? They got a day job, they got kids, they got all sorts of things, they got a sick parent, whatever it might be. But you sound like someone who's completely cleared the decks and made this is it, right? I mean,
this is it. This is it. For better or for worse, this is it. And I'm very, very, very grateful to have the job that I have and have the freedom to do the things that I do outside of the job. But it is, at the end of the day, it is a job. And there are some days where, you get handed something, like when your trailer breaks down or your van breaks down or something like that, or maybe your voice breaks down. A couple days ago, my shoulder broke down when I was putting my guitar and stuff. So feeling a little better now. But yeah, just be careful what you wish for because you might get it.
Gotcha.
I kind of equate it to like when you see gymnasts and they're on like the rings and stuff, they're holding themselves on the rings. It's like, I got what I wanted. I got a career in music and now I'm just holding on for dear life and trying to keep myself up here. Because now I'm so invested in this that, if something were to go awry, I'd be asking you if you want fries with that. For sure.
And also you're so invested. I mean, there's no turning back, right? I mean, you have to keep doing what you're doing. And obviously the inspiration, the passion is there. So, which is a great segue into the new song, Roll Around With Me, which is killer. And I don't want to tell me about the writing and recording of that. And on a sidebar note, I saw on your Instagram page that you've been writing with Steve Brown, a Trickster.
Yeah.
Who I'm a big fan of, who more people know what that guy does. I am of the belief that the Last Ace Frehley record would never have even come to fruition, nor be as good as it was if it wasn't for him. That's my own opinion. But as he co-wrote, I think, every song and produced it. So yeah, talk about the new stuff because Wild Blood was killer. And this song, Roll Around With Me, is fantastic. And
so, yeah, when I did Only Jams, like I love the songs on Only Jams, and like I basically spent like I started working on it right before the pandemic. I got a bunch of recording software and I got a whole bunch of gear, and I've just basically as soon as I joined Hairbangers Ball, a lot of people who used to like my old original band Love Blast and are kind of got a little upset that I went and joined a cover band afterwards. But what people don't understand is that Hairbangers Ball actually gave me the freedom to be able to A, afford a recording rig, and B, actually start producing my own music and stuff. And I had free time. I didn't have to have a day job where I was, doing anything else. Sorry, my cat is like freaking out because I'm not giving him attention right now.
I can't hear anything.
Okay, that's great. That's great. It's great that you can't hear it. Unfortunately, I can.
But if you see a 21-pound tuxedo cat suddenly appear in front of me, that's my guy who's
I got
just
a
massive.
tuxedo. My cat. First of all, my cat's name is Simmons.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's a tuxedo cat, which feels a little blasphemous as a Kiss fan because his name should be Peter or Chris or something like that. But
that's too obvious.
His name was already Simmons. That's the whole reason we went to go find him. My girlfriend's sister was like, hey, there's this cat named Ace. And I was like, okay, like they were trying to convince me to get a cat during COVID, and so. There's this cat named Ace, and they know I'm, a really gullible Kiss fan, and I'll buy anything that they put in front of me. But so we went to go check out this cat named Ace, and Ace got a home before we found him. I might have to take him upstairs in a second because he's really distracting me. It's hard for me to put together sentences now.
It's a good background. I could pause if need be, but don't
Yeah.
even worry. I'm a fellow cat owner, and I'm sure
All
many
right,
people
cool.
listening are. He's not.
Good.
He's doing all right.
All right. So, then just coincidentally, there was another one that came up named Simmons, and they were like, "All right, we gotta check out this guy." And then, yeah, it was awesome. He was a great cat, and you just knew you had to get him right then. But yeah, like it's really unfortunate that there's all these tuxedo cats that are named after Kiss members, and yet I haven't found one that's named after Peter Criss yet. I feel terrible. Now I feel like I can never meet Peter Criss because I can't tell him I have got a cat that's named after Gene Simmons.
Yeah, he'd give you the side eye. I mean, he'd be disappointed, right?
Yeah. So anyway, also Simmons is featured in some of my videos and Hairbangers Ball videos too. So it is still kind of relevant to what we're talking about. But anyways, so I did that record, Only Jams, and I made that one all by myself. I programmed the drums and stuff, and then I played all the instruments or programmed them, sang everything.
Wow.
And then that was a really fun process. But I see you've got a Paul McCartney poster behind you there, and
yes.
To my knowledge, obviously one of the greatest, if not the greatest songwriters of all time. And put it this way, he's had a massive career in music, and there's only 3 albums that he's done entirely by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know there's
played all the
2.
instruments. Yeah. Was it the first solo album and one of the ones he did during the pandemic? I think there was that album. I think it was McCartney. Yeah, we're on the same page. Yeah,
but so what I'm saying
did
is,
it all.
I wanted to prove that I could do an album all myself, but after a while, it was really fatiguing sometimes. And then because I was doing it myself, I was programming a lot of stuff, and a lot of the stuff, like there's a lot of electronic elements on Only Jams. And I kind of wanted to get back to my roots a little bit and do something different and get back to recording with a live drummer and having someone else come in and play bass. And I was already having the guys in Hairbangers Ball play live shows with me. And because the tough thing about it is when you put a band together, you don't really gel until you've played like 200 shows together.
Right.
And I was like, well, I get along with all the guys in Hairbangers Ball. We play all of these great 80s songs together. Why don't I just ask them to play my solo stuff with me? And then eventually, I've like, just like Tom Petty has Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Sure.
My band is Brian Durbin and the Bangers, because it's half. It's pretty much Hairbangers Ball with just the dudes.
Makes total sense. And I was going to ask you about the band name, and also I was going to ask you if you, with your solo stuff, you answered my question, was if the guys from Hairbangers Ball play with you on the solo stuff. And I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? It makes perfect sense. They got the chops. You guys all have you guys come from all the same same frames of reference, right?
Yeah. So we did Wild Blood together, and then we did Roll Around With Me. There's another song that's going to be coming out in, I believe, September, called Junkie Jenna. And then we've got we did a cover of Phil Collins and Philip Bailey's Easy Lover. Which,
no kidding.
When we play shows, people love it. So I'm really excited for that one. I'm hoping that one's going to be out in August, but I'm so busy with Hairbangers right now. I'm a little bit behind schedule, and I got to economize like when I'm using my voice, because I'm singing so much right now. So yeah.
Gotcha.
And then the Steve Brown thing came out because, just like you, I absolutely love the new Ace Frehley album, 10,000 Volts.
Yeah.
And I just think everything about it is awesome. I love the songwriting. I love the production. And as a big Ace fan, it was really a step up from a lot of the stuff that he's been doing recently. No disrespect to it, but it was like, okay, this is a special album. And I grew up, I love Trickster. And I had been messaging Steve for about a year trying to get him to work with me, but he was so busy. And then he was playing a show in West Chicago, which is really close to where I live in Glen Ellen. And he happened to have a day off, and made a post on his Instagram page about how he was doing songwriting sessions. So I sent him a DM, and we worked something out, and I took him out to the Red Apple Diner in Carol Stream, which I probably listened to the first Trickster album on the way to that diner when I was a teenager. So it's really crazy. But and then we wrote a song in his hotel room, and we've been talking ever since. And I'm hoping to do that one with him and his production team. And because Bruno Ravel from Danger Danger mixes a lot of his music. And he mixed 10,000 volts too. So it'd be great to, see what one of my songs would sound like with that crew. So yeah, I'm really lucky. I'm really busy with Hairbangers Ball. I got the Brian Durbin, the Bangers thing going on. Then I got a little side action with Steve and some other people going on. So yeah, I'm a very fortunate guy.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man. And you definitely are having a lot of fun and you can hear it in the music. And next to the music, the other thing I really dig about what you do is that you really focus on the presentation and the visuals, right? Yeah. I can see, and so your videos are a great example of this. Obviously, there's some care, there's some expense. It's not just filmed with an iPhone.
I'm glad you noticed the expense part.
Yeah, and what I also love, I noticed on the 2023 album, Only Jams. You've got an actual gorgeous physical piece, a booklet, lyrics, the whole bit. I still will buy physical CDs and vinyl, but still buy CDs. And a few things bum me out more is that, and I stream like crazy, and that's how I discover stuff like you. Sure. But for my favorite band, especially if I've got their previous 7 or 8 albums or whatever it is, I need to have the next one CD. And what really bums me out is when it arrives or I find it in a record store and it's just a digipack with no booklet or anything. And I'm like,
sure.
Well, I don't need like a box set here, but give me something here. And it sounds like are definitely committed to providing that.
Well, I'll tell you what really made that possible, because, album artwork and stuff like that is really expensive. And thankfully, growing up, I discovered a lot of this great music with my cousin, Mike Walsh, who did all of the artwork on Only Jams and stuff, and helped me compile everything. So he really helped me out, because if I was paying, what that would normally cost, it probably would have been a digipack or something like that, or like, a little sleeve or something like that. But he's really passionate about, he's a big CD collector, but even bigger CD collector than I am and stuff. So he really gets like how albums are supposed to look. Like we based the entire thing off of the first album I ever owned. And I essentially base almost all of my artwork off of this, is the Permanent Vacation album by Aerosmith.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Great cover.
So the way the lyrics are laid out and the way the artwork is in the background. In fact, even the silver pressed disc is made to look like one of the old Geffen albums. So right. It looks like Permanent Vacation or Appetite for Destruction or anything like that. Because I want people, when they open it up, because like most people realistically aren't going to listen to the CD. So, some of them do, and it's actually blown me away. In fact, I put a little intermission track on there that's not on any of the streaming services or anything. There's this little intermission track on there. It's basically a test to see if people actually listen to the physical
I CD. Love that idea, man.
People tell me it all the time. That, they listened to the intermission. They loved it. They thought it was hilarious and stuff. So, the big thanks to my cousin, Mike Walsh, for helping make that happen, because without him, it probably would have just been, like a lot of the stuff that I did with Love Blast, where it's like we had some little bit of a budget to put a physical product together, but we didn't have, time for we didn't have money for 4 panels full of lyrics and personal photos that aren't even on my social media or anything like that. So that's and there's even like little QR codes for like little like Easter eggs and stuff in there. So yeah, I'm glad you appreciate that, man.
I totally do. I love all that stuff. I wanted to ask you about the new track, the new video that just hit, Roll Around With Me. What's the genesis of that? Who did you record it with? And the video with all the old footage interspersed in there with the live stuff. This could have been on MTV in its heyday. Is there still an MTV? That shows you. I believe there might be, but every time I turn it on, it's got ridiculous. So back when MTV
or whatever,
back when MTV played music, it all works. And plus, bottom line is it's a great song,
Thank you, man.
first and foremost.
Well, so the new approach that I've been taking with my videos, because I did 3 music videos with Hairbangers Ball. I've done 2 music videos with my old band Love Blast, and then previous to that, I had done 3 videos with my solo stuff. I did a video for Don't Let Go, I did a video for Feeling Myself, and then I did a Brooks and Dunn cover, and I made like a Def Leppard style like rock version of that. And those were more like traditional music videos where you're just kind of like miming to the audio and stuff. And then I saw there was a Bon Jovi documentary on Hulu. And
watched it. Yep.
Yeah. And what was awesome about that is Doc McGee, their manager, was like, you guys, like, you got these videos where you're acting and you're not actors. Like, quit with the fucking acting and stuff.
Right.
Just play the shows and have the music video be an advertisement for the shows. Your musicians just get on stage and do what you do. And that's what we did with Wild Blood. And then that's what we did with Roll Around With Me. But the problem is Roll Around With Me and Wild Blood were shot at the same venue about 2 months apart from each other. So by the same, there was a girl named Emily Flower who did all like the camera work for it. And then Benny McCullough, a.k.a. Nikki Thunders from Hairbangers Ball, the lead guitar player for Hairbangers Ball, is just a amazing videographer and video editor and stuff, and really helps me out on pretty much everything I do. And so like the footage was looking really similar. And we're like, well, how do we make this one different than Wild Blood, because it's going to feel exactly the same. So I found a bunch of old video that was like related to rolling and stuff. And then I kind of started like messing with like the concept of like old vintagey kind of stuff. Like,
yeah,
there's like flapper girls dancing and stuff. There's like whirligigs and roller coasters and carousels and acrobatics and stuff. Anything to do with rolling, because I loved all those like old Aerosmith videos, like Dude Looks Like a Lady and Lovin' an Elevator and stuff. And I keep going back to that 80s Aerosmith stuff, because that's what got me into music.
Right.
And I love just like the cheeky sense of humor with it and stuff. But, yeah, so that was kind of the inspiration for a lot of like all that old timey footage being thrown in there, was to kind of get that like old Aerosmith feel to it and make things kind of lighthearted. Cause the lyrics for the song, you know, like Wild Blood at the core of it is basically a love song, even though it's kind of like got like a punk rock feel to it. But Roll Around With Me is just like big boneheaded dumb rock and roll, which I love. Like I'm not criticizing it at all. Like I think more people should be making big dumb boneheaded rock and roll.
Absolutely.
But
in this day and age, you know, come on, it pays to cut loose. You need to.
Yeah. So I didn't want to make it too serious. I wanted it to be goofy. I didn't want it to look like the previous video. And then there's another element to it too, where during the pre-choruses and then the ending guitar solo kind of goes to red for a second, because the song and the lyrics kind of have this manic quality to it. It's like it's a silly song, but it's actually there's a little bit more of a layer to it. The song's actually kind of in a way about the perils of addiction. So it's the lyrics are about like hypothetical girls you may have like hooked up with over the years, or you knew from back in the day. And then it transitions during the pre-choruses, like Heaven Knows I've Tried It All, Crystal Balls and Voodoo Dolls and stuff. And it's basic, but then the chorus goes back to Roll Around With Me. And I kind of based the concept off of this one System of a Down song back in the day. And unfortunately I can't remember the name of the song, but it's this song about like everybody's going to the party, but it's really like an anti-war song in a way.
Okay.
And I kind of got the idea because in a weird way, I look at some of my old music that I released, and you know, it's horny 20-something rock and roll and stuff. And but now, you know, I'm a little bit older, and some of it I look at, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, you know, my mom heard that song, something like that. Like, so I got inspired by Alice Cooper, cause he he's a very different person today.
Right.
He's like a follower of Christ and stuff, and basically
Clean and sober,
completely
of course,
clean and sober,
40 plus years.
and basically, the way he views his show now is he can still have all that dark imagery and stuff, but at the end, Alice Cooper has to die.
Right.
So, the video, like when it goes into that like frantic kind of addiction part, it all turns red. And then you kind of go back to your addiction, which is the chorus, which is the fun roll around with me part. And you think you're having a good time. But then the end of the song has like, it's like really chaotic, and it goes this big guitar solo, but there's like all these weird animal sounds and stuff. The video has like people being eaten by like lions and tigers and stuff like that. And it's like, it's a really weird video, and I'm sure no one would have picked up on any of that stuff. And it seems like all good time rock and roll, and it really is. But, yeah, I'm just trying to find new ways of doing things, and just getting a little creative with it. Not that like, I mean, at the end of the day, I just want it to be a fun rock and roll song. It's just that
it is.
Weird little twists like that are what keep me entertained.
Yeah. Well,
I've made so many. I refer to the song as a boner jam. I really like I have many different types of songs, but I made a lot of songs over the years of what I call boner jams, which are just like, hey, I'm doing you kind of songs, like Ace
right.
and stuff. But a lot of those bands, like, you know, some of those lyrics, you know, haven't really aged well over time to a lot of people. And, you know, especially now in the world of social media, you can see people, you know, now we can give you a real-time response to your lyrics and all sorts of stuff like that. So, so there's definitely been a backlash over time, especially with bands like Motley Crue and stuff, who I absolutely love.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets you thinking in a different way when you go to release your boner jam. Maybe it's a boner jam with a little bit more substance or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it meets the eye.
There's more depth there. And I think you remind me that all those bands that we love, I mean, you know, that wasn't the only thing they were singing about, right? I mean,
sure,
it was AC, you know, that, you know, people tend to paint with a very broad brush, you know, hear a bunch of songs, you know, and maybe lyrically they're all kind of the same, and all of a sudden you jump on the stereotype bandwagon. But all those bands, they would get totally bored if all they were singing about was getting laid all the time. Now, even if that's 60% of the lyrical content, which, you know, for so many of those bands, I don't even think it is at this point. And they're, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 albums deep or whatever it might be. I mean, it's got to be boring, but also it just gives the music a little bit more depth, you know? I mean, it gives something more to listen to.
And I think 60% is a good ratio. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to get too serious here. It's one of the greatest things of life. Like, it's the reason we have life, you know?
Right.
Like, but yeah, my brain just has been going in a lot of weird ways, you know, the older I get and stuff. And, to be honest, like, it was one of those things where I was writing the lyrics to the song. I didn't even really know what it was about until I kind of like almost got done with it, because I was trying to make it make sense and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't really think I really don't think it makes all that much sense to begin with. It's just with what I had lyrically, that's like the direction I chose to take the video.
Right. But to you, it all makes sense. And the great thing about lyrics and videos as well is that people can have totally different interpretations of it, right? That you might not even be thinking of how they interpret it. And the other thing too, with lyrics, especially, I mean, you're not going to be writing from the same kind of perspective or even in the same way at 34, 35 as you were when you were 21, 22. I mean, if if you are, you're faking it and forcing it, because, and then it really shows, right? I mean, because you're not the same person as you were, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word evolve or mature, but your life, which I just did, but your life experiences have given you more things to write about or different ways to say things, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Paul Stanley says that all the time. Like he'll refer to the songs like Come On Love Me and Love Gun and stuff like that. And those are great songs.
Right.
And he, you know, he feels like he's technically a better songwriter today in that, like, you know, he knows how to craft a song better.
Sure.
but that youthful instinct of just like, especially when you're 20s and you've got all that testosterone pumping through you and
Yep.
stuff, and you can write all day and stuff, and
Yep.
there's a magic to that too.
You're capturing lightning in a bottle at
Yeah,
the same time, right? As well as
absolutely.
testosterone. So,
Yeah,
so it reminds me too that I can hear songs for years and years and years, and all of a sudden we'll pick up what they're saying on the lyrics. I don't always pay so much attention to lyrics, and
me neither. When I'm writing them, like the only thing that like I start paying attention to it for is like I'm like, oh shit, I'm probably gonna have to explain this to someone later.
right,
Sometimes
right.
So I'm like, what does it mean?
Every now and then, my wife will be like, "Oh my God, did you hear the lyrics to that?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"You were just singing along. Do you know what?" And I'm really have no clue because what I'm focusing is on that massive riff, or the harmonies or the guitar solo, whatever it might be for me. And I could be singing along and probably know all the words, but most of the time, if you ask me what they're singing about, I'd be hard pressed to tell you exactly what they're singing about.
The lyrics are the thing that comes absolute last to me when I'm writing a song. And I know that disappoints some people when you say that. But for me, it always starts with the guitar riff. Like, the big reason why I release solo music outside of Hairbanger's Ball is I just love playing electric guitar. And I'm very fortunate to have a house now. And so in the past 2 years, I've gotten really just into doing it the old way and cranking my Marshall amp and stuff and just standing right in front of it and destroying my hearing, but having a great time in the process. And that's what I live for. And then I love, just screaming melodies on top of it and stuff. And then I just try to I heard John Mayer refer to it one time as Ouija boarding it. Like you're kind of just singing gibberish and then you're like, all right, that kind of sounds like something. So like the lyrics, I don't even really, at the end of the day, I don't really feel like I even pick what they are. It's just like I kind of just get some sounds that sound cool together and try to make it make sense in some way.
And fit the melody, right?
Yeah.
The vocal melody that's in your head. That's really what people are picking up on. I mean, and the hook.
And truthfully, like I'm happy with my lyrics, 50% of the time afterwards, but it's really just an excuse for me to play guitar.
Right.
That's really all it is. It's really just an excuse for me to play guitar. And that's what keeps me going is I just love playing guitar, and I love cranking up my Marshall and just yelling a bunch, and then that's
Got it. So that's a good segue to one of my questions I want to ask you. Favorite guitarists? Who do you keep going back to? Who do you love the most?
If I had to pick one, it's got to be Eddie Van Halen. But I keep going back to like more and more like Ace Frehley is like really like my guy, like on a lot of stuff. Like just his solos are so simple and they're iconic solos. Like
yeah.
They're like songs within the song.
So they always are, right? And for me, it's so much of that is Eddie Van Halen as well. And there's a list of other people, but Ace is up there as well for me. And there's something about his solos, and I, know a few chords. I never play outside of my own living room, right? But his solos. So forgive me if the terminology is wrong. What I'm getting at is that are they arpeggios? Because for so many of his solos, I always call it the falling down the stairs part of the solo, where he's do you know what I'm saying? Where it's just like,
totally.
And it's just, and you could hear the way he picks so differently. And so many of his solos they end up coming kind of, there's the opening, there's a cool melody, and then what I call the falling down the stairs part. And so many of the Kiss songs and solo stuff. And I just absolutely love that. I love his solo stuff like that.
Yeah, almost all of his solos are like simple pentatonic. That's like
pentatonic. That's what I was
for like what he sticks in.
Right.
But what he's doing is not necessarily an arpeggio, but it's I know what you're talking about by the falling down the stairs.
I don't want to totally hum it because I'm off key.
Like that kind of a thing. Like it sounds like I can totally hear what you mean by like.
It's like a descending or an ascending riff. Like, and it's just like da 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 da, and towards the end of the solo, and it's almost like I just picture him just like kind of stumbling and kind of.
It's
Yeah,
rock and roll. It's rock
exactly.
and roll. And that's what I love about him more than any other guitar player is he's just so rock and roll, man. Like, and there's, like I said, there's songs within the song, like the way he picks, like you were saying, like it almost sounds like he's playing with a piece of broken glass in a way,
Yeah.
but it's cool. Like it's like really, it was like one of the biggest things I remember from my first Kiss concert was like just when he hit the strings with his pick, it chirped in my ear the way like I'd never heard another guitar player play before. It was just, and like, you know, he's not a technician by any stretch of the imagination or anything, but he's just so cool. His solos are so memorable. And like, yeah, I can't say enough great things about him. The other two guitar players that I feel like I need to wave the flag for because they've gotten a lot of flack over the years are, you know, cause they're 80s guitar players and like everybody thinks like 80s guitar players. Okay. Yngwie Malmsteen, George
Sure.
Lynch, Warren DeMartini, these real like shredding, ripping guitar players and stuff. But pound for pound, in my opinion, the best guitar solos of the 80s were made by CeCe DeVille and Mick Mars. And the reason I say that is because as much as I love John Sykes, Doug Aldrich, like when he would emulate like a John Sykes lick, he would
Sure.
kind of do his own thing with it. It sounds awesome. And John Sykes and Doug Aldrich are two of my absolute favorite guitar players.
I absolutely love Sykes. What a loss too.
I
Just, still bums
absolutely
me
love
out.
that. And what I'm saying here is not going to be a negative thing at all. But like, you can do your own thing with a John Sykes guitar solo. You can do your own thing with a Warren DeMartini guitar solo or a George Lynch guitar solo. And like maybe, you know, like if you've got guitar players in the crowd or whatever, they'll be like, he didn't play Dream Warriors the way Georgie plays it, baby. But if you don't play the guitar solo for Talk Dirty to Me the way the guitar solo for Talk Dirty to Me is played, you are missing the fucking point. That is a song within the song. There is no other guitar solo on Talk Dirty to Me other than the solo that CeCe DeVille played. And I would also argue the same thing for Nothing But a Good Time and all those other big hits and stuff. I know he got a little frantic when he was all whacked out on Blow, stuff like that.
Right.
And same thing for Mick Mars. Like if you play another solo during Home Sweet Home, other than what Mick Mars played on Home Sweet Home, you might be the greatest technical guitar player in the world, but I'm sorry, you suck. You suck. You have desecrated a piece of art. Like that solo is absolutely perfect for that song.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear your interpretation on it in my local bar. I want to hear you play that song because that solo is the perfect solo for that song.
Yeah, he doesn't overplay. You're right. It's perfect is the apt word for it.
Yeah, and the way Mick plays too, like he's just got I think it's something about the way they tune the guitars in Motley Crue, but there's this sound that only he has. And yeah, so I would say today, like if you would have asked me, you know, in 2005, I probably would have told you Paul Gilbert was the greatest guitar player and Yngwie Malmsteen, and I still would have said Eddie Van Halen then, so that's why I still number one, I always just put him at the top. But today, where I'm at in my life, when I'm listening to music, I like to hear, I like Ace Frehley, CeCe DeVille, and Mick Mars. And Slash. Wow. I like Slash.
And Slash, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm of the same mindset of that stuff. And I'll tell you, I was thinking about this when I was writing out some questions and all this, because I'm a few years older than you, and by a few. And so I graduated high school right at the thick of all this in 1985. And for me, I've still always loved that music, but I also especially love all the stuff past the quote unquote heyday. You know what I mean? I think those guys were still making really good music, and some of them still are really making good, really new music. So like I've listened to the last two, especially the last Def Leppard studio record, more than I have listened to Hysteria in the last 20 years. I'd rather hear new stuff, but I love hearing what these guys are up to now, you know? And when I think back then, I mean, I really appreciated what guys like CC did, because I'm also a massive Cheap Trick fan, and you can hear the debt. You can hear the debt and Talk Dirty to Me. He owes a little bit to Rick Nielsen.
Oh yeah.
I liked Motley. But my Jones really for that time period for the LA bands was really Rat
I love
because
Rat.
that those sounds that Beau Hill, those records sound flawless.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's something about, you had that rhythm guitar player in there, and Piercy was so limited vocal wise, but it still worked, right?
But what a cool rock and roll voice.
But what a cool rock and roll voice. I was just going to say that. And
He's a great writer too.
yeah, and deep. I love some of his solo stuff. He's a good writer, and the guy, he's not just a vocalist. I mean, the guy was playing guitar long before he was ever a lead vocalist, right?
Yeah.
But DeMartini has got this soulful, bluesy sort of feel and sound, which none of those other guys did outside of. I always put Eddie completely separate from all that, but none of those other guys really kind of had that sort of bluesy sound at that time. For lack of a better word, I'd say, other than maybe Dave Meniketti of Y&T.
I love Y&T.
Man after my own heart. That if there was a band that deserved to have freaking platinum records lining up and down their walls, it was those guys. So, yeah.
Absolutely love Y&T.
I'll go up on a big tangent there. All right, so I gotta ask you. Obviously, the tribute band Hairbangers Ball makes the music clear. Hair metal. You don't think that, a lot of people think it's derogatory. They put it down. I just can tell those people to completely fuck all the way off because it's great songs, great music, moves your ass, fantastic guitars like we were just, melodies, guitars like we were just talking about. But how do you describe your solo music? And before I tell you that, I never really described any of that stuff as hair metal. To me, it was hard rock or later melodic rock,
Yeah, it wasn't called hair and metal until they needed to get rid of it.
Right. Yeah, good point.
Knowing what I know about marketing and branding now and stuff like that and how much money goes into promoting albums and stuff, unfortunately, like a lot of, mass taste is manufactured.
Right.
Because, by 19, and the thing that I always say about hair metal music and why I still consider it to be the greatest form of commercial hard rock music is because you can't show me another form of commercial hard rock music that lasted as long as it did and it appealed to so many people as it did. They call it the decade of decadence, but it lasted longer than a decade.
It did. Yeah.
I would say hair metal starts, with, I know there's, I know Quiet Riot was around before, but to me, hair metal starts in 1981 with the Too Fast for Love album. And it goes all the way, at least until Nirvana, Nevermind. And some of those bands are still even putting out great music after that. So, I mean, the decade of decadence went longer than a decade. It was a decade plus interest, baby.
Right.
But,
right.
But I mean, grunge didn't really last that long at the end of the day. And,
No.
It starts like 1992 and, by 1996, 1997, the biggest thing in the world are boy bands.
Yeah, exactly.
And, so
Good point.
it's not really that big of a movement. In my opinion, it was like the powers that be at the record labels just needed to put this hair metal thing down already because when you've got two bands named Backseat Romeo at the same time that are named after, one small Skid Row lyric.
Yeah.
And you've got a hair metal band on every street corner. And, every town has their own Sebastian Bach, not as good, but they've got a tall blonde guy that, can just wail. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many great bands from Chicago even, that were around from that time period that, honestly, like you'll still see them pop up on Instagram Reels from time to time. One of my good friends is a guy named John Craig, and he played for a band called Odette. And, they're just every bit as good as like any other band from that time period. And there's plenty of other bands too that, from Chicago. And that's just one city. That's just one city.
Right.
Think about all the bands from LA or New Jersey that, you probably never even heard of that were absolutely amazing by today's standards. So I think it was just something that like, the people at the record labels were like, all right, enough already. We got to get rid of these bands or something. So they just needed to start a new trend or something. And then it turned into the grunge thing. But, if you go to any sports arena today, what music is playing?
Yeah, exactly.
we we've got We're Not Gonna Take It. We've got Heaven's on Fire. We've got Kickstart My Heart. We've
Welcome
got
to the
Welcome
Jungle.
to the Jungle.
Yeah.
Like, you might hear Smells Like Teen Spirit. You might hear Even Flow, but that's about it.
Yeah, right.
And I'm emphasizing you might hear that. Like, I've been to a lot of Bears games. I hear a whole lot of hair metal. I don't hear a whole lot of grunge. I know the Nirvana t-shirt is a really popular t-shirt with Gen Z. And, like, the best thing for that brand is, that nobody ever got to watch Kurt Cobain get fat, old, and bald.
Right.
And no disrespect, I know he's a great songwriter, but that stuff is just, I can cherry pick songs I like from here and there. I do think they're the most overrated band of all time. And they're one of my favorite grunge bands. Let's put it that way. But
it's funny because my favorite grunge bands were the bands that really owed more of a debt to classic rock and hard rock versus punk. Right?
Sure.
Like Nirvana. Like, so Pearl Jam, 2 guitar players, those guys. I mean, Stone Gossard's like a massive Rick Nielsen fan. Mike McCready's a Hendrix fan. I mean, those guys owed a debt to the classic rock, which is what their parents listened to, right? And sure, Eddie Vedder might have been into punk, but those first Pearl Jam records, it's a twin guitar band, right? Stone Temple Pilots, to me, I still am a huge fan, and I will dig out anything that the Leo brothers are involved in because they get a great groove. But to me, that was, all right, fine, call it alternative rock, whatever. To me, that was a really cool hard rock band. Alice in Chains, same way, And I think one of the things that really set the 80s bands apart is, one, there's still, so many of them are still doing it and still doing it really well, right? 2, I think it was inevitable some backlash was going to happen because the labels went overboard. They were signing bands that did not. There was for all the bands that people that you mentioned that should have got signed. There was plenty of people where money was just being thrown around that you just, by 89, 90 was like, yeah, this is just bandwagon jumping now. Yeah. But the other thing too is that those songs and the sound really hold up. And I think what's really fascinating to me is that I've always loved this stuff, but I'm of that age. I came up at that age. Well, you discovered this stuff and we're 20 years apart, so it's as real to you as it was to me. And I came up in it and you didn't. Does that make sense? I mean, so what I'm getting at is that influence is still there. If that genre is still finding new fans, it's really today's classic rock.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I don't mean to entirely dog the grunge thing. That's kind of a dead horse already at this point.
Yeah.
Especially like the great thing about Gen Z is that they do embrace, classic rock, they embrace hair metal, they embrace grunge and stuff. Like, it's really more of like, people from my generation, like, or older that, we kind of have this like class warfare kind of a thing. With this music. Because in a way it was kind of programmed on you, like if you liked grunge music, you had to hate Poison. I remember wearing a Poison shirt to high school in 2003, and that was not a very cool thing to wear to school in 2003, but I had to. I just loved Poison.
Yeah.
Loved Motley Crue. I loved Kiss. I loved Aerosmith. So, I mean, and what you're saying about the term hair metal, I don't get so hung up on the derogatoriness of the name. I feel like it's, a little superficial and stuff, but I also feel like if you actually do like a little bit of research where these like genre names come from, they're usually almost all of them are coming from some sort of derogatory place. Like, I don't think like Kurt Cobain was sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, you know what I want to do? I want to make the world's greatest grunge band.
Right.
I don't think I think those bands too would probably kind of like be like, ugh, with the terminology and stuff. Even the term heavy metal, I think was a derogatory term when it came out. And I'm sure if you looked into even like the term blues or something like that, there's probably just some like record executive that was exploiting these blues musicians. It was like, this guy's complaining about he's got the blues all day or something.
Right.
More of that blues music or something like that. So if you look at it, like, almost all these genres are coming from somewhere like negative with the actual genre name. And that's what sticks.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Everybody needs a label, but like I was getting at back at the top, I mean, to me, you're a hard rock artist. That's the
Thank
first
you.
thing I hear. That's what got me into your music in the first
Thank you, man.
place. I mean, great musicianship, killer guitar solos, hook laden songs, big, I always love that stuff versus, three guys scrapping in a garage. I mean, there's a place for that. And not
Sure.
every record's got to sound like Don't Look Back or More Than a Feeling, for God's sakes, but
Sure.
there's some real quality to your stuff there, which I can, which totally moves me and I can totally hear. And I
Thanks, man.
really dig it.
I,
So,
I, I really appreciate that. Yeah. I would say like at the end of the, what's funny is like I've done so many different, in my head, I've done so many different styles of music. And then every time I put something out, people are like, dude, you make great hair metal. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, hey, as long as you say it's great,
but,
that's fine. I mean, you don't even have to say it's great. Like, I don't know. Like, this is just what I do
but
with my free time. I don't have kids or anything like that. Like, and so, yeah, I mean, I finish work and what is there to do? So I put on my Les Paul and crank up my Marshall, and what comes out comes out, and I do it again the next day and the next
right.
day and the next day, and it's just what I do. And then when I get something I like, I start recording it, and but I like all types of different music. I was really into like I'm really into like Max Martin style pop music too.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. Like I listen to Kesha and Katy Perry probably way more than I should. I should as a grown man, but I do. So that makes its way into my music too. And then I'm also really really into Rick James and Prince. So
Okay.
my the meat of my music is like hard rock, whether it's 70s or 80s hard rock. And then yeah, there's a little bit of Max Martin pop in there.
Some perfectly produced pop sheen, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Max Martin,
I
and
love that kind of
he owes a debt to ABBA, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you can hear that kind of that through line there, where it's just these are perfectly crafted pop songs.
yeah. So I've just always loved that kind of stuff. It's probably like the most millennial aspect of my music is the poppy polished quality of some of it. And then yeah, like I said, just Rick James and Prince, I just absolutely love that stuff. Absolutely love it.
I think you just answered the question I was going to ask, as far as other influences,
Yeah.
which you have a very sounds like you have a very wide variety, a wide palette, if you will, of things you dig, which is always good.
Yeah, I like everything from Lady Gaga to Slipknot, but emphasis on like the in between section.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
like that. Those are like the more like fringe outskirts of what I listen to. But the meat of it is still Kiss, Aerosmith, Motley Crue, Van Halen,
Gotcha.
Skid Row.
All right. Speaking of Kiss, I'd be remiss because we brought it up a couple times. A quick round robin for you. I didn't expect to do this, but I started thinking in my head I wanted to ask you because I'm a fellow Kiss fan too, and kind of a quick what's the word I'm looking for? Round robin, quick answers. Favorite Kiss book? Could be by any of the artists or unauthorized stuff.
I think it's the one. I think it's called Kiss Behind the Makeup.
Yes.
And what I love about that one is they actually go
Track by track.
track by track, and because you don't get that from Kiss a lot.
No. And that's my favorite. I can't tell you how many times I will put on Creatures of the Night and then go downstairs and grab that book. And I've read it 15 times, but I'm reading along to the songs to hear what Gene is saying about War Machine or something,
Yeah, I love, like obviously I love the theatrical element of Kiss. I think it's cool and stuff, but I it's really more about the songs for me than
same
that
here.
stuff. Like I really think they're the most like discredited songwriters in
Oh,
rock
absolutely.
music.
They're both huge Beatles fans. Paul's a big R&B fan. And it's funny because I think for most Kiss fans, especially my age, you heard Kiss before you actually saw what they look like, which sounds counterintuitive, but I heard Rock and Roll All Night on the radio. I heard I Was Made for Loving You on the radio long before. I mean, I never saw them in concert. I was 11 years old. There was no MTV. Do you know what I mean? So to me, it was about the music. And then I'm older and I see the album cover or I see the magazine or whatever. So, all right. If you have one, favorite Kiss album.
That's tough for me because are we counting live albums or are we doing studio albums?
Let's just count studio, all eras.
Studio albums. This is going to be.
Well, man, it doesn't have to be just one because you can break it down within eras, right?
So, off the top of my head right now, I'm probably going with Crazy Nights.
Oh man, dude, we do have the same record collection.
I just love the songwriting on that, but I also from the I'm also a really big fan of Revenge.
Same here. Yeah.
And then I would say from the classic lineup of the band, I'm probably going, even though the production is like one of the worst produced albums of all time, Hotter Than Hell.
Okay.
I love the songs on Hotter Than Hell. But I mean, any day of the week, I might be different. I might say Asylum is my favorite album one day.
Yeah.
I might say Rock and Roll Over is my favorite.
I'm a big fan of that one in particular. Yeah. Yeah. No, same here. I mean, I could pull any one of them out and just all of a sudden be reminded of the gems on Unmasked. Yes, I said it. There's some great pop songs on there. You know?
I love Unmasked.
So I'd say it was one of the more underrated Kiss albums, to say the least. So yeah. That's the thing with them too, especially. I mean, totally underrated as songwriters. And yeah, there was some real cheesy stuff. And I don't know if there might not be a truly great Kiss album where there wasn't like one or two songs that were filler, right? Or just they were rushed. They had to get this done. They had to deliver the masters. They were getting a big fat advance, you know, and it's a year after, and here's Animalize. You know what I mean? But there's still really good stuff on that. Yeah. I'll listen to Murder in High Heels and While the City Sleeps and totally dig it, you know?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, like you'd be hard pressed to get me to admit to a Kiss song that I don't like. Like I have an appreciation. Some of it, like, you know, I don't like as much as other stuff, but, I like pretty much all of it. I would say the only Kiss song I'm not like crazy about is that song Samurai Sun that they did like a few years ago.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It was like a Japanese only kind of a thing.
Was it like a Japanese, was it supposed to be on Monster, but was it an extra track or so? Maybe there was something else I was thinking of.
It was after Monster. It was, I don't even know what it was for. It was kind of like there's a Kiss only version and then there's one that they did with like some other like Japanese group or whatever. And that one's the only one where it's just like, it's just not my thing. Like, yeah, you know, there's elements I can appreciate of it, but it's just not my thing. That's the only derogatory thing I think I've ever said about Kiss.
You just reminded me there is a Ramones tribute album called We're a Happy Family. And Kiss does a
you remember Rock and Roll Radio?
Yes. Stomping. So much fun. Absolutely love their version of it. And which reminds me, those guys, I mean, I would have loved to have heard them, and they did it during sound checks and oddball stuff, but, you know, they could do some really fun covers. They did some really fun things, you know?
It's funny you mentioned that because, like I've kind of more so been, I was never a huge punk rock guy growing up or anything. But then touring with Faster Pussycat kind of got me into the punk rock thing a little bit.
I'm a huge fan, by the way. The Whipped album is just, sorry.
I love the first album. I also really love Power in the Glory Hole. It's one of their more recent albums. And like, my original band before Hairbangers Ball, Love Blast, toured with Faster Pussycat in 2015, and we like lived on a bus with those guys for a month.
Oh,
it's
cool.
Crazy because I was a big fan of the first Faster Pussycat album and Wake Me When It's Over.
Yeah, Wake Me When It's Over too. Yeah,
to be like hanging out with like Tammy on his bus, and it was weird. Like it's crazy. It's some of the best times of my life. But
that's awesome.
But yeah,
sorry, I got you sidetracked there.
No, I'm sorry, but I got an appreciation for punk rock from that tour, and then also I got an appreciation for punk rock and Motorhead during COVID when I was making Only Jams, because I was I was going to the rehearsal studio every day to record because I didn't, there were no shows, so I had no shows to market with Hairbangers Ball. And I was singing so much in the day that I was losing my voice and stuff. And it was my first time recording an album by myself, and I was getting frustrated. And it was like, because I was always into these like super polished 80s bands like Danger Danger and Trickster and stuff that had these, and Winger that had these immaculate harmonies, and they're all such great players and stuff.
Right.
It was just like this realization for me. I was like, fuck, man, like, what a level those guys are on. And like, I was getting angry, like while I was recording, and I wanted to sing and I wanted to rock out, but I didn't sound pristine like Ted Poley that day or anything, but I still wanted to rock. So I started getting into Motorhead, and I was just screaming in the studio and stuff, and just having a great time and just playing power chords and not worrying about playing well and stuff. So that's like when I started getting into punk rock, is just because like I want to rock right now, and some days I'm not healthy or whatever, and some days I just want to like get right into it. But anyways, back to the Ramones thing, like you were saying, there's a song by the Ramones on their 1980 album called Chinese Rocks.
Yes.
But the Johnny Thunders version is called Chinese Rocks. Their version is just called Chinese Rock. I always thought it would be cool to hear Ace Frehley cover that one.
I'm gonna listen to that when we're done here. And I'm like,
I'm actually thinking about doing a cover of Chinese Rock and making my own like Ace Frehley style version of it. So if Ace doesn't do it at some point in time, I'll do it.
Man, I vote for that. I have got to hear that. I would love to hear that. So, all right, I could easily keep you for another hour. I won't do that. Tell us what is next for you. The new track just hit. Roll Around With Me, out everywhere. The links will be there. It's on YouTube now. It's a great video. And prior to that, also out as Wild Blood. Is there more songs coming? Are you leading up to another album? What's, say, the rest of the year looking like for you?
Yeah, so I'm basically continuing just to really, I wanted to do it different this time initially, and I wanted to try to have an album all together and stuff right away. But the problem is, like, I don't know, I kind of like making music as it comes to me, and there's like putting a full album together all at once is expensive, and then people's attention spans are so short now. So an artist with my level, like, I've been recommended by, a bunch of like internet marketing people. Shout out to Andrew Southworth, like one of the great Facebook ads experts on YouTube and stuff. But I've been advised by people to kind of like, just stay the course and keep putting yourself out there and keep putting out new content on social media and stuff. I hate referring to rock and roll as content and stuff. But I also don't want to throw away the rock and roll either, because I work hard on it. And like the problem is, when I was releasing full albums at first, people would get familiar with one song and then that'd be it. And it was like, well, what about the other 10 and stuff? So I'm putting out singles and kind of just keeping it fun and stuff. And, I just did the single with Wild Blood, which I forgot to mention earlier. That was mixed by Mike Fraser, who engineered and mixed the last 6 AC/DC albums he did.
Yes, that's right.
The main reason I worked with him was because he was the mixing engineer on Permanent Vacation by Aerosmith, which was the first album that I ever owned. And obviously Bruce Fairbairn passed on a while back, so I can't work with Bruce. So I decided, well, like, what if I try my hat at being Bruce and stuff? So I've gotten into producing other people and stuff. So I'm working with another artist right now on some of her stuff that's really cool. It's just music all the time for me. I got the song with Steve Brown still waiting to be recorded. So yeah, I've got a ton of songs in the can, like ready to go. I'm not sure which ones are going to survive, because I'm always trying to do something different. Last time around I was doing, produce, mix, record, perform everything by myself. And then this time, I'm doing 4 songs with the Bangers and stuff. And then I'm going to do some stuff with Steve. And, I got some others. I've got the guy who produced, Don't Let Go, Chuck Masak. We're gonna do a couple songs together and stuff. So I'm always trying different approaches and stuff. I'm always keeping the ball rolling, but I'm always just changing it up, just because I just want to try different things out.
Right.
I always wanted to be the guys in like basically like the Aerosmith Pump documentary. Like I wanted to live inside that movie. Like
Got it.
when I was a
Yeah.
kid. So I love being in recording studios. I love recording at home. I love jamming with the guys in my band. I love jamming with other friends and stuff too. So just anything to keep it fresh.
Yeah, it's a cliche. You're living the dream. Well, definitely living the dream. I always, would have loved to have lived, quite frankly, where you're being creative all the time and you're doing all these cool things. And I think putting out music as it comes to you, new music, Brian Durbin and the Bangers. I think it's crazy nowadays. You can't wait 2 or 3 years, and you certainly don't have the time, and probably not the energy or the financial wherewithal to just go, okay, we have to record. We're going to spend the next month or whatever it is, or even 2 weeks in the studio and jam all this together to put out an album, right? And I think how you're doing it is great because with new music coming every couple months, that's what, everybody's new people finding you all the time, and they don't have to go 2 years without hearing something new. And maybe collectively those all come together in a super cool CD package, with a bunch of cool things, maybe a bonus track or two. But, still putting out this great stuff because personally, I want to hear what you're going to do next. I love these songs. I want to hear the next new song from Brian Durbin. I don't want to wait 2 years. I'd rather wait 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'm trying to keep it every 6 to 8 weeks after.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So starting with Wild Blood, as much as I can, I'm trying to keep it because of what I know about the Spotify algorithm and stuff, which is basically what led me to you and stuff, is to keep the Spotify gods happy and keep pushing out into the release radar algorithm and stuff. They want you to be releasing every 6 to 8 weeks, and especially for someone like me who's like still kind of in a state of being discovered and stuff. That's just what I've got to do. It's a real bummer for me because I do, I miss the days of albums. I love just like putting on an album and just going on the whole experience. I feel like sometimes a single release strategy can kind of limit you a little bit because, you get less weird songs that way. And like one of my favorite things about like old Aerosmith albums is they would have weird songs like near the end of the album sometimes that like, now when you're releasing singles, it's like you want to keep your base entertained and keep doing what they're used to.
Yeah.
But sometimes
an album had an experience. I mean, those weird songs are key, right? I mean, if somebody can tell me what Bolivian Ragamuffin is all about,
dude, I'm glad Rockin' a Hard Place is a top 5 Aerosmith album for me.
Thank you.
The weird song I was thinking of was Push Comes to Shove.
Oh yeah, sure.
And in fact, the last song on Only Jams before the intermission, is a song called Down in My Soul. And it sounds nothing like Push Comes to Shove or Mia or any of that stuff, but it was like, or Billy's Got a Gun by Def Leppard, but I wanted to make it be like the oddball song on the album.
Right.
So I'm glad you've got an appreciation for that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I dig the way you think, man. Totally. So, all right. So everybody can find you at briandurbin.com.
Yep.
Tell us the Instagram and Facebook handles.
It's just the Brian Durbin. I've learned a lot from Gene Simmons. It's not just Brian Durbin. It's the Brian Durbin. Well, the reason why it has to be the Brian Durbin is because there are actually, unfortunately, so many Brian Durbins to where there's literally a Brian Durbin that grew up in the same county as me. And just coincidentally, like, went to the same, like, medical group as me. So sometimes our records would get mixed up.
Oh, my goodness. What are the odds?
So I'm like, no, I'm the Brian Durbin. As a matter of fact, my Facebook handle for my personal profile is not just the Brian Durbin. My music page is the Brian Durbin. My personal profile is the cool Brian Durbin.
Make no mistake, that guy's just Brian Durbin. Yeah. You are the cool Brian Durbin.
Well, you know what? He must be like just a quicker guy than me because I think he took up I think he got to the handle before I did. This guy's been my nemesis my whole life, man. Like Bizarro Brian.
All right. Hairbangers Ball shows. You always got shows up
always
coming there.
Always playing. Just go to hairbangersball.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Those are our 4 main platforms. All lowercase, one word, just Hairbangers Ball.
And
That's it, really.
some Brian Durbin and the Bangers shows at all come through the end of the year at all anywhere?
I'm hoping there's a show by the end of this month that I was really hoping to get. I don't know if it's going to happen. And especially because even if it becomes available to me, I don't know if at this point in time my guys will be available because it's going to be on a Tuesday. But Night Ranger is playing at a venue near me, and I'm really trying to get the opening slot for it, but I can't get a word back from anyone about it. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm looking at doing another show in Chicago, hopefully like near the end of September or something. And then I got to do a Bloomington, Indiana show at some point in time just because I love that town. I love that venue, the Bluebird in Bloomington, Indiana. And then every year I want to do one show in all of the major markets that Hairbangers Ball plays. So I want to do a show in southern Wisconsin. I'd like to do a show in Indianapolis. I'd like to do a show in Louisville, Kentucky at some point in time. There actually is it's not a Brian Durbin and the Bangers show on the horizon because it'd be too expensive to pull it off, but there is potentially going to be an international show with a backing band in another country that I can't talk about just yet. But
I love this. You got a lot of irons in the fire, man.
I've got a lot of irons in the fire. Yeah, it's but yeah, we got to worry about booking the plane ticket first and getting the availability at the venue 100% confirmed before I start talking about it. But there's talk of a South America show.
Woo! All right. Well, and it'll be all over your social media if it all happens.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be shouting it from the rooftops.
Awesome. Brian, man, thank you so much. This is so much fun. I absolutely love talking to you.
I had a blast talking to you, man.
And talk to you for another hour.
You're a great guy to talk to, and you have one of the most rock and roll names of all time. So, yeah, absolute blast. Great taste in music, man.
Thank you, sir. All right, hope you enjoyed my conversation with Brian Durbin. Durbin is how you spell his last name. And you can find him at briandurbin.com, as well as at all your favorite streaming services. And also, he's got a terrific YouTube channel where you can find the super cool video for Roll Around With Me, as we just talked about. But before you do all that, be sure to check out a bit of Roll Around With Me right at the end here. So thank you for checking out another cool rock podcast. And as always, be good to yourself and be good to other people. Take care.